I think that's absolutely right. And one of the things that I'm, I'd say I'm neither agreeable or disagreeable with the notion of AI, because I think that detracts from what is happening. However, I feel like I side quite heavily on people's opinions like Elon Musk, who call for essentially policy around AI creation and these sorts of things. My question specifically to you as a historian is, given how slow policy seems to move and how insurmountably fast technology is moving, how do we breach that gap?
I think that's one of the most important questions of our time. If you asked me to list, the two or three most important questions that we have to figure out, that's one of them. Because there's no doubt, and I know you've talked about this on other episodes of yours, the pace of change has increased. There's no doubt about that, not just in AI and everything. Climate change is faster, right, than it's been before. All sorts of things are happening on a faster pace. And our institutions are inevitably very slow. They're slow because they're always made for yesterday's problem, right? It's like every classroom is out of date the day it's been completed because the students are learning in a new way. So there's that problem. And then we're living in a time in all of our societies where we're going through this transition and people are trying to hold on to their institutions, even though their institutions need to change. So England, the United States, all of the so-called advanced world has institutions that are moving even slower than usual. So this is a real problem. I think this is precisely where we need the kind of historical thinking that I'm talking about. We need to find those specific areas, not everywhere, where making the maximum investment today can have the maximum effect to prepare us for the fast change around us. So we're not going to change and reform every institution. Let's think about the places where we can make the most difference. I'll give you a few examples, and they're all historical. They're ways of thinking about things historically, right? We know when new people enter society, a new generation, that one of their biggest challenges is finding a way to communicate and communicate in a way that brings people together, not takes them apart. The historian says that hate is very easy to infect in new technologies. So we should be investing, if we're historically informed, in trying to create, I don't know if they're rules, institutions, practices that encourage and incentivize unifying discussion, like what you're doing with your podcast, versus the kinds of hate mongering that we're seeing in different areas. And governments could reinforce that. That wouldn't require throwing away all of our laws and all of our institutions, but it would require investing, and perhaps investing also in the way we think about how large we allow companies like Facebook and others to become and how they should be regulated. That would be a historically informed question. It wouldn't address every problem we have with faster change, but it would allow us to catch up in one particular area. The other thing I would say is that what we know from other periods and other patterns and moments of this kind of rapid change and slow institutions is that the people who remake the institutions are usually not the policymakers, the people in Parliament or Congress. They're the people in those institutions. And so we should be empowering and preparing people to do that. And what makes our moment difficult is there are a lot of people who have a lot of technical knowledge who don't really understand the institutions they're working in, and people who understand the institutions who don't understand the technology. That's something we could also invest in. That's where our educational system could do a lot better. So those are the kinds of questions I think we need to ask. We're not going to fix this problem, but we can make targeted investments in particular kinds of reforms that'll have a big effect in allowing our institutions to catch up and allowing our society to better use institutions for the values we care about.